we're starting the September 22 meeting of the Parks and Trails Committee. We have everybody present who's on the committee except for Darrell. And I have not heard from her, so I don't know if she's coming or not. So just to get started, I apologize that we couldn't do this via Zoom, especially given the numbers that were just posted today. I thought when I approached the city that we could do it, but then when I asked for the Zoom link, the city said we had to do it in the same format that the city commission meets in, and they were still meeting in person. And so they said we had to meet in person. The city commission did decide last night that starting in October, they were going to start meeting in Zoom so we can. But it was too late this morning, according to Faith, for us to change it to a Zoom meeting. So apologies for that. I really thought we could do it in Zoom. I would have preferred that. So, but anyways, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 25? Any changes? Well, motion, I guess.
Motion,
first.
no changes.
Sarah
I'll second that.
and Rachel. Any discussion of the minutes? Any changes?
No. Thanks, Connor.
I have a change.
Okay.
I would like to amend or make a comment on my vote related to Summit Street abandonment, and I should have abstained my vote just because of who owns the property. It happens to be my boss. And so I feel like I should have stepped away from that conversation.
Okay. So it's not a change to the minutes because we can't go back and change what we did, but it's.
Or comment.
But we'll put it in the minutes for this meeting
Right.
that you recognize you should have abstained. There was a conflict you didn't recognize or whatever. Okay. All right. So that is Allison.
Connor, are you triggered?
Yeah, I got classic Snapchat.
Okay. And Darrell has joined the meeting. Any changes to the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes passed. And we'll make that note, Allison, for the minutes for this coming. New business is the Reservoir Park. Public comment on the future of Reservoir Park and how it can be improved. The intent here is to hear from the public and then make a decision at a future meeting. Okay, I want people to get the results from the surveys and any public comment that comes up today, and hopefully we can make a decision in October. So that will be an action item for that.
So
Hey,
can
yep.
I ask a question?
Sure.
My understanding was that we made a decision on the Reservoir Park and it went to the city
Right.
commissioners.
Right.
And now it's back to us, so.
Well, we have not made a recommendation on how to improve it. What to
How
do.
improve it, oh, I see.
at Reservoir
That's
Park.
different. Okay. Got it.
We went to the city and said we want to improve it, and here's what the master plan said.
I
But we have not gone to the city with a recommendation for what, if anything, to do there.
Okay, so I thought it was.
This would still have to go back to the city commission, whatever we
Right.
do.
Okay, all right, appreciate it. I was a little off base there.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Hayes, I assume that's why you're here?
No, I was here to clarify if everything we've done thus far is considered public comment.
Yes.
I think we've pretty well exhausted.
Yeah. I mean, everything.
How the residents surrounding the park feel. So,
Yeah, no, well, can you just come up and identify yourself? Because we'll do that as public comment.
sure, my name is Jesus, so my comment is, has everything we've done thus far considered public comment?
And I'm saying yes. And the question I have, and maybe Allison, you can answer this, is did most people put their addresses on the surveys?
Everyone put their street. So they said they were a Livingston resident or not, and what street in Livingston they lived in.
Okay. So to that extent, we'll know where they live. It may not be the exact neighborhood.
No, that's fine, but they don't have to be here tonight. So I called
No.
several people everybody's got things to do. I've been at 4 of these, I'm tired of them, I'm sure you're tired of me showing up at them. So at the same point, everybody wants to know, have the things we've done thus
Yes.
far considered public comment, or do we have to write letters, or what do we have to do additionally on top of what we've done to make it clear we like natural vegetation, control of weeds and those kind of things in Reservoir Park as a priority?
We have all the comments that have been submitted to the farmer's market. You collected some cards at the soccer field. You were up at Reservoir. Did you make a second trip to farmer's market?
We did, yeah.
Okay, so we have all those events, and we've gotten a few comments otherwise besides those events. Go
And then
ahead.
anything that's in this meeting is recorded and part of public record. And then everyone who emailed is also in those comments. So we have quite a list of comments.
We're good?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's nothing I have to add, thank you.
Okay,
Wonderful.
thanks,
Thank
Hayes.
you, Hayes.
So, Allison, do you want to give a summary so far of where we're at? I mean, number-wise, or
Not yet, because I haven't added Sarah's, and I was,
Sarah's?
the ones that she has
Oh,
from,
All the surveys
from farmer's market?
and the soccer field.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay.
so we want to make sure that we collect all of it first before presenting it as a summary.
How many
And-
surveys do you have so far?
Without yours, it would be over 65, I think.
65?
Mm-hmm.
So I have about 41.
And then
Or
there's a
100.
couple that have been trickling in via email.
Right. Did you get Michael Chalice's? Okay.
And how do you want to characterize those? At the next meeting, I would like to do an attachment that includes, like, a summary of the spreadsheet and how it was done, but also some encapsulation, maybe just a list of all the comments, which is fine with me. We could just do that.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is like give the city commission the hard copies of all the questionnaires with the quick look at the Excel spreadsheet where we took those graded 1 through 8
Yep.
and listed it out, and then we have public comment on that Excel spreadsheet also.
Okay. And that has to go to the committee first, because we'll make a decision in October. Then
Right.
it will go to the city commission,
Yeah.
so,
But
okay.
that whole folder plus our recommendation will go to the city commission.
And have you scanned all the other comment cards? Will you do that?
I wasn't planning on it. I don't,
Do we have a scanner?
Well, the challenge is the public should be able to see those. And so Bila scanned the first ones from the first farmer's market.
Can Faith or someone in the administration scan them?
I don't know, I can
think
scan
so. I think so. Do you want them for the agenda?
for
Is that
next,
what you're saying?
for October. What I'd like is the public to be able to see everything that came in. So we'd scan all the cards and we'd do a spreadsheet and a summary.
That is common, like with annexations or decisions. We have copies of letters, and or we get emails which are not necessarily printed because that's just one form of communication. But then a letter comes in, we add that. But we can ask for it to just be added to the agenda as public record. And it already is public record, but then adding it in is just another layer. And
To
you
the
put
Parks
all-
and Trails Committee agenda.
For both. For when it's
Yeah.
brought to the commission and the agenda for the minutes
Okay.
of the Parks and Trails.
Could you check and see if, I'm real sensitive to even asking Faith things like that with
Well,
this.
I'll do it right now. That's usually how I get things.
Okay,
done
if
when
you'll,
we're here, so.
okay, if you'll ask, and if she can't, I'll take the cards and scan them, but,
Or I could split it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to
So
scan it too.
this will be,
okay.
when are,
October, 27th is our next meeting?
Mhm.
Is that it, Carol?
asking for it to be on the agenda.
It'll be on Parks and Trails Committee agenda on October 27th. We'll then get the recommendation to you that night or the next day. So that means your next meeting as the commission is the 2nd. That's not enough time.
No.
It'll be the 16th. Your meeting November 16th.
But the scan, we need to have them before that.
We'd have to have the scan by October 20th.
Yeah, that
Just-
is tight. We could always add things to, an addendum, but if the item is put onto the agenda, but we can think on that, you know what I'm saying is.
It's tight to have her scan it by October 20th?
Well, just getting all that information gathered after the meeting is a tight turnaround to get it onto the next agenda, but if you do put it, or we want it on the agenda, the committee does, then we get the item on the agenda and add the addendum. That's one way of doing it, or waiting until the 16th. With everything.
Well, the committee needs to see it, and so does the public, I think, for the Parks and Trails Committee. So we would just need it by the 20th, because that's when the agenda for the October 27th Parks and Trails Committee will go out, the next day, 20th or 21st.
So you'll have everything to pay by then for the scanning.
Yes,
By which date? I'm sorry, the 20th?
20th. Well, she needs it
Before.
as soon as possible, because we need it back by the 20th. So I would say whoever has, Allison, you have some and you have some. Could you put them all in one pile and get them? If they
Once we
say-
did them all,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay.
get them.
Just so there's not two people dropping stuff off, or whatever, to make it easy for Faith, if she could do it. And if not, we'll split it up here and scan them.
Are you still gonna work with me on getting?
Yeah. We can just do it over the phone, probably be faster.
I think in person, because if I need to show, like, because there's comments,
Yeah.
there's qualitative stuff on here that it'll
What
be hard
about
to
the-
explain on the phone.
Right, the Excel spreadsheet is like the numbers for the most part.
And then we have,
Do we have comments?
And then we have
Yes.
additional amenities that people want.
There's 3 questions.
But then there's some people who really wanted to like write on the map, and I left those on the sheets.
on what sheets?
You mean you didn't enter the
No,
data?
I didn't copy those comments. They're on the hard copy of the questionnaire.
But those will be scanned when we scan.
Right. And then there's a couple people who wanted to add additional comments and wrote on the back of a second questionnaire, and we wrote down additional comments made on the state.
Okay.
And they were very clear. I've already been once, I filled out the questionnaire, I would like to make additional comments.
Okay. How do you want to present this to the committee next month? I mean, is the expectation it's just going to be the raw data with no summary?
No. No, it's got to no. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not a statistician, but what, on the Excel spreadsheet, there's a look of what the average ranking is, if someone ranks all of them, and then there's some people who just wanted to rank their top 1 and 2 choices, and there's a percentage average, there's a median look at that as well, so we break it down 2 different ways.
Great.
So, that's,
I think it's key that we don't overthink this.
Yeah.
That this is a questionnaire. We're gathering information.
And it's not
If
scientific.
the city commission wants to slice and dice the information in a different way, they're welcome to do that.
yeah.
I just want to make sure we have enough information without, well, you'll have time to look at it, but the point is we'll make a recommendation, I hope, in October.
I think it's also important that we quantify how people are going to get to the park and who they're going to bring with, because parking is a huge question on the
Oh, yeah,
Reservoir
yeah.
Park. So I think
Yeah.
it's important if people are saying walking, biking, or
Yeah.
driving.
Do you two want to,
We can figure it out.
Yeah.
And then if we have questions, we can ask you if we're on the right track, and we can present it. And if something is kind of off, then we can tweak it again, and we'll just have to delay it at the city
yeah,
commission.
as long as we have the scans of all those, that would be helpful. Anything else that we need for this?
I think you guys have got it. I'm happy to help and look over it. I don't know if would it be appropriate to ask like a neutral, like third party to come in and
But
take a
the
look
thought,
at
yeah.
that? I don't know.
Well, who you might see if, I mean, could we ask Lisa? I'm thinking of Lisa Lowy with the city simply because she does the surveys that are posted, the Survey Monkeys that the city does.
Mhm.
It might be that you two could meet with her and just,
I think she'd be a good sounding board for what type of analysis is important.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could, Allison, check with Mike Cardos first and make sure we can do that. Our communication has to go through Mike first.
Okay.
Oh, is that a new rule?
Yeah, we'll be talking about it.
Okay. So then all the copies of the voting will be
Of the
kept
surveys.
saved and for the future, or what happens to them after we?
The hard copies?
Yeah,
They'll go to the city.
okay, so they'll have
There's,
them in
I
their.
mean, I don't want to hold on to them.
We'll put them in the safe
But we'll,
with all the cash.
we'll scan all of them.
Sure, I know that.
Now, I
but-
don't have the hard copies from the first farmer's market meeting, Byla does, but I have the scan,
Mm.
so.
Okay, sounds good.
Anything else on Reservoir Park? We have a plan of action for next month.
Who do I give all these to? And all of the surveys and.
Those are pictures. Just look up.
Well,
I don't want to carry them
we
around.
should keep those for next month's meeting and then for the city commission meeting. The city commission will not have seen any of these. Clinton might have because he was at the farmer's market. So can you save those and bring those to the next meeting, Sarah? Or Allison, somebody?
Huh? Can I keep them?
Yeah, I
Till
only
the
have
next
one
meeting.
bag with me to
You
play
what?
with. I just don't have a good way to carry it home tonight.
Okay.
When we meet up, I can take them from you if you want.
Darrell, is there anything else we need to do that you can think of for this?
I don't think so. I would just make sure we're getting it onto an agenda, like even,
You mean a city commission
Yes.
agenda? So I should tell Faith tomorrow that we're going to take action at the October 27th meeting and we'll get her our recommendation within a day or two.
yeah, and then ask Michael and her, because he's really the, that's his job.
Right.
She just assists on,
Okay, send Michael the,
Yeah.
okay.
but do both and say, we want this, the recommendation as an action item on the,
In November,
and CC me.
okay. I mean, they can put it whenever they want. It's, yeah. So,
Can I ask another question?
yeah.
On our last minutes, we talked about, there was a sign, there was a newspaper article, and I think a social media post. Did all those go out? Did we cover those bases, is what I mean? Because I know we were in a time crunch.
I put the sign up,
The sign was-
signs up at the park now.
Social media post got done. No press release went out though.
The press release.
The press release.
We did send a press release out
Yeah.
for this one, this
Yeah.
meeting,
But
and a
no-
social media post. The press release wasn't picked up, so.
Does that, do we need to follow up with that? I'm just wondering about, thinking about process and public outreach, because it's something we want.
I sent it to Hayes. I figured Hayes would,
I sent it around to our 25 people on the hill, and they all sent it to me and said, you go down.
so I sent it to,
Yeah.
the interested parties. I don't think Hayes is on that list, so I sent it to him separately. So,
And the specific public meeting was given a press release that got picked up.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're covering all of our bases.
Yeah.
For public outreach, and if
Yeah.
there's any policy, I don't know if that's something, do we have to ask Lisa on that, or is this an example? Who would be the person to say, yes, you ticked all the boxes for public
on
outreach?
the Senate, I sent Lisa, I told her exactly what we were doing. I sent her the press release and the and the social media posts, when she approved them, she made one change on the, two changes actually on the press release. And then I sent the social media post to Connor to post, because
Okay.
he's our contact.
Great.
He's doing all the posts.
So Lisa is the person, is that what you're saying? She's
On,
right.
on media.
Okay.
Hayes?
Will there be comment or public comment option in next month's meeting? So you'll present the findings of the survey, and then at that, after it's presented and before your decision, there'll be
Yes.
opportunity for comment?
Yep.
And every time there's an action item, there's opportunity for public comment. So on every decision.
Anything else on Reservoir Park? Okay, so you're all set, Allison and Sarah?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, great. So it'll be on the agenda for next month with the attachment. So now we're on the logo design, and I will turn that over to Rachel.
Sure. Clay and I had a visit with Megan Eubank, and with the express purpose of really finding out where we're at in the process and what our options are moving forward. I'm trying to make eye contact with you because I want you to clarify if I missed anything, okay?
All
And we
right.
can't tell if you're smiling or not.
Yeah, and I can't see you. Okay, there you go.
I'll interject. I feel like
Okay,
you don't get it
great.
right.
Great, thanks.
I mean, if you want to stare at me, that's great. But
Locked in.
So Megan and Clay and I had a nice visit. You know, it is her. You know, she really thinks or thought that we were at pretty much the end of the process of development of the Parks and Trails logo. With the new information that the city would maybe look into developing their own like umbrella. I guess it would be like an identity
branding.
right? That sort of complicates matters, right? It feels like we have a bit of like carts before horses. That said, you know, based on the conversation we had with Megan, I would recommend that the committee finalize our project with Megan and provide a recommendation for a new logo, get Megan paid, and then maybe even make a comment to the commission that perhaps this logo, this Parks and Trails logo, could be used as an artifact for the development of their new branding. But we don't want to lose all of the progress that we've made. We certainly don't want an unfinished product to hand off to the city commission.
And last time we spoke, you know, I was like recommending that we hold off until we see what the branding strategy is, which you know, after speaking with Megan, I feel like she's so close to having it done. Just having something like, this is where we're at, this is a finished product, getting her paid is probably the most logical thing to do after having that conversation, so, yeah.
Questions from the committee first about how we got here?
Yeah, will you remind me how long we've been in process with this logo?
I don't know. Do you know that?
It's been months, a long time.
Yeah. We've had how many back and forth? I mean, how many iterations?
Well, we had the
Yeah.
one iteration where she gave us three very distinct signs to look
Right.
at.
Yep.
We picked one, and the contract is that she from there was going to develop three or other versions based on our input. And I can tell you what we told her at that time.
Prior to that, too, we filled out a questionnaire.
Yeah, we had a questionnaire that we gave her
Yeah.
that said, here's what we'd like it to reflect. Colors, design, thoughts, whatever.
Have those? I don't know if I've seen them.
The first three,
Yeah.
yeah. It was
Because
one of our
so
committee
many
meetings.
things because of issues.
Let's see.
Is where we're at now or the original?
Well, and I don't recall seeing the last one. I
Here's
feel
the
like
three,
And they're not, I don't think you emailed them, did you?
yeah.
Couldn't hear.
They were, and we had a special meeting in July where we discussed these three concepts.
I was in Puerto Rico.
And so here were the three concepts, just so you know.
Sorry. It was awesome.
I'll circulate this, but just, these were the three designs.
Well, and I have a design background, so I probably shouldn't even look, and I'm gonna get all picky, so I'm gonna try to be
So
very
here's,
thoughtful.
here's the three designs she did. We looked at that in July and then made a recommendation to her on which of those we want. We selected concept B. And we had some suggestions on design, color, shape. We didn't really have a suggestion too much on font.
I like them.
So the attachment to this month's agenda included her then expanding on concept B.
So then you're, with what you're talking about, Rachel, of them, the city then developing and then maybe them tying a little better to
When
each
I-
other? Is that kind
Right,
of what you're thinking?
so knowing that this has been, developed before the city major branding has been developed, and just with the thought that probably they'll need to be compatible to some extent,
You passed this down.
maybe, do you think we could make a recommendation to the city that they would use this as an example of what could help inform the design process for the larger citywide brand?
Well, and I think we could ask for it to relate, not just inform, but even if this is separate, they should relate. I mean, I'm iffy on the Livingston font, like you were just saying you didn't really recommend, but because I have a feeling that will be updated. But then if that is updated and you say, this is the overall idea, font-wise, you probably want them to tie in. But then, this is our old style
Right.
with the more cursive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling it will update to less cursive, just because that's going to progress through
Sure.
how design is going, but keeping your main idea.
So what happened is I had a meeting with Mike Cardos right before our last meeting. So it was sort of a shock, I think, to all of us. But Mike said that the city was looking at sort of revamping the whole logo thing. And so I said, well, do you want us to delay this, or what do you want us to do about this? Because we're pretty far along. And I actually had not heard back from any city staff about either the selection of the first three or this latest one, which was on our August agenda. So in August, we said, well, maybe we should wait. But then Rachel and Clay agreed to meet with Megan first and see what she thought. And we I think right now the discussion is let's just go forward.
So do you want me to do anything as far as helping connect between, where the process is and
Well,
Just
if I'm not aware of the city actually starting a process on a logo. Are you?
I know just have talked about updating the logo and with the new building and all.
Yeah.
It's been a long time of hearing about it, but
And so we already signed this contract. The city already signed the contract with Megan. I think the commission approved that in June or
Yeah.
May. So we'd like to just finish this, even knowing that the city may change its logo, and just try to go with our best recommendation for a logo for Parks and Trails. Right? That's what you're saying, Rachel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
in my notes from our other meeting, we were talking about it back a year ago. It's been a long process. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
It's when the dog signs.
So tonight, I think it sounds like the recommendation is let's look at what she sent us and go forward. One of the things we had said, just as we go through these, is on the design, we like the trail imagery and the connectivity. We wanted the trail component to be thicker, which she did. We wanted a different image for the A in parks than the pine tree, a little bit Christmassy, a different tree or even a leaf. And we liked the idea of incorporating wind imagery into that. We wanted to go with earth tones. We wanted a vertical and a horizontal versions of the logo so that we could use it for wayfinding, which is more of a square. And we didn't have much we wanted to change with the font, but we pointed out again the Welcome to Sacagawea Park sign, and that's currently in use, and it would be nice if it wasn't totally different than that. So those were generally the comments. And she wrote back what's on the front of there. She looked at the different icons for A, the color, the shape, etc. So that's where we're at. She's got 3 variations, A, B, and C. Clay, maybe you want to start, or Darrell, since you have just your reaction to it.
Yeah, I already stated just in the lettering, I can see that changing.
The Livingston?
Yeah, the Livingston.
Okay.
The tree feels a little fluffy. A little too cotton ball. I like the idea though, and I agree with the pine tree.
Which variation are you saying is cotton bally? A?
Yeah,
They're
let's see.
all the same tree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
but
is
there's A, B,
cotton
and C.
ball.
There's 3 pages, so A is one tree, this is different, and C actually has a leaf.
Oh, I didn't see those ones. Wow.
And B, I don't think the tree leaf, it's lacking in something. I like the tree idea, but I don't know if I like the trees offered. That's just my opinion. And then, but I like the leaf, the idea of the leaf and the design that she created is pretty cool.
That's C?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I feel like the and sign, what's that called?
Ampersand?
Ampersand. There you go. I was trying to think of it. It's awkward.
Is that because of the font?
Yeah. It's an awkward font. Where did I see a better?
Might have been in one of her originals.
Just, yeah, on one of these, I think, just even this one's just a simple, smaller.
Is that concept C there from the
This is
first?
A.
Oh, A.
I do like this one. So you guys went with this. I like both. I like this one. It reminds me of the stickers that everyone's thinking about and doing on water bottles and vehicles. Just has that kind of look of that people would like to have on their water bottle.
I think at least one of my reactions to that one was it looked like trees that had been burned in the forest. And all I could think of was fires, you know.
But I think that's a color issue. Like that,
It could be.
It could be better. But
That actually was our third choice.
really,
Yeah. We didn't think the other one was fleshed out enough, though.
this one.
Yeah.
The leaf.
Yeah.
I like the leaf the most personally.
This one, and the designs are pretty good. I mean, they're really good designs. She's a good designer, and it's great to see the work. But when you're marketing, I feel like this one is it's a cool design because the mountain scents and everything within that leaf. but it makes me think that it's gonna be about a green initiative. Or something related more to
Mhm.
to recycling, or how are we changing our green initiatives in our community? Versus parks and trails.
Sure, that makes sense. I see where you get that.
Anything else, Darrell?
I feel like I've been already really opinionated. On the S, can you guys tell me what? Oh, it looks like it was taken out on this one, but I was unsure. And the S, it has this little mark. What was that?
That's the one I marked up, but what the committee wanted was the trail to be thicker, so to be the same thickness as the font to carry over, so she did that in this second version.
So in A, on this one?
Yep.
Okay. So the leaf one. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the trees on any of them. I think there's a better version.
But you're okay with the leaf.
Yeah, the leaf design itself, but then, like I said, I feel like it might be a little more green initiative by having that.
No, I mean on this one. We're already past the mark.
Yeah, but even on this one,
Yep.
it
Yeah.
gives a different sense of what you're selling to me.
And does that mean you like it or mixed?
Yeah,
Okay.
good design, iffy selling points. Better design, not a fan of the trees. If there's a better tree that could be designed to represent.
So your two changes, if we were to go with one of these, would be to change the font for Livingston and a different tree still.
Or be thoughtful of the font, because I have a feeling that's going to be something that we'll need to tie in as we change up the branding of Livingston and of the city of Livingston. So I'm fine with the font because it does tie into other fonts that we have in our community. It's nice. I'm curious why, and maybe this is me, but why on this tree and what you guys think anyway. When you think about our trees in our community, how many trees look like that?
Which one are you looking at?
Any of the little triangle-like trees?
Oh.
In her
That was our
email, she specifically said she's trying to put a tree in place of the A. So I think she's trying to represent an A in the shape of a tree.
Yeah.
So I don't think she's necessarily.
Well, the first tree was a conifer,
Christmas tree.
and so.
She said this was deciduous.
Mike was saying, what was the
So
tree?
we wanted to change it to exactly what you're saying, Darrell, something that's more representative of our parks and trails.
So she said one was deciduous tree, then a more abstract tree leaf, and then a leaf.
I'm just curious if the tree was a little more of a cotton wood or a ash or just something a little more. I think that our minds are going to all read A anyway.
Box elder.
Okay, because if you replace the T with a tree, then you'd be like, what are you trying to say, rails? But if you replace that, the A, and have it a little more of a regional tree, this reminds me of, I'm trying to think of this, the tree you see in Europe all the time when, in like Italy and, all through Germany, different, it's like a cypress.
Okay.
Like the one on the Lebanese flag. It just feels like it's the wrong location of that type of tree.
Okay.
Okay, you probably didn't want all that information.
No,
or
no,
opinion
this is
from
what
me.
we're trying to do. Clay, you have some background in all this. What do you think?
So a couple questions. Do we have any more time with Megan, or is her contract, she's fulfilled what we've hired her to do? I just want to clarify that.
Like sets of changes, how many do we get?
You know, that's not totally clear. Maybe you have a better idea. I mean, the idea was she'd give us these variations.
I think that's where we ended up the
I think we need to
conversation.
review our contract with her
Mhm.
and how many iterations that allowed. It's my, like, if memory serves, I think we got 2.
I seem to remember, Gene, when we had our special meeting, that we got 4 more set of changes.
I sort of think we did 2, but let me look. I might have a copy of the contract here. So after the initial round of logos, we will narrow down what's working the best and fine tune that particular logo. Cap of 3 rounds of proofs.
Oh, perfect.
So we should have another round to go through. So we could, for example, I'm not totally sure what you mean about on the font, as far as being more thoughtful about it, because at some point we don't know when the city's going to change anything. So either we want to ask her to change the font now, but we could ask her to do something different on the tree still.
Is it possible that we just pay her and we leave that third set of changes for once the city's finalized, and then she can do little tweaks like
I don't think that's
Livingston
professional.
font and
I don't think that's the best way to go, to leave her hanging.
But we
with an
pay her.
unfinished. Right, but also to expect
no,
an edit.
like we would ask for no changes right now, and we would just pay her her contract, and then if it's just little
Isn't
changes
that
that
too
we're
much
asking
money then?
for.
Then we're not getting what we paid for.
You know, then we're not getting what we paid for. I think we should get this as close to, as done as we possibly can. Finish this is my opinion, and, you know, provide a finished product rather than an unfinished product.
It could be that if the city really likes it but wants a change, they could do another contract with her for just a small amount to make an additional change.
We could also, because we'll get
Like with a different font or something. But I agree with Rachel, I'd just soon move this.
we'll also get the Illustrator files, and so we could give it to the new designer
Yep.
too, and wrap it up in that contract to
Mhm.
align with that.
Yeah, that would be fine. I would suggest if she does make any more changes on this, I mean, we could get some different variations on the trees. I personally like the version A, and I do like version C, just because I feel like that the average person's probably not going to analyze the tree shape as much as those of us who are designers might. I mean, as a designer. But I think we should leave the font for Livingston as it is, because it's just going to be too hard to predict what the city's going to want. And there's probably going to be bunches of iterations.
Can I ask something off of that? Is this the color then, too, of the Livingston?
We can change it. We just asked for rustic, and I think what we said on color was we wanted to go with earth tones, perhaps leaning towards fall colors, and maybe include a marigold orange, yellow color. Not excited about more blue and green. Need a version in white or light color, black and colored, as well as a reverse cutout that could be used for metal signs. I assume that's this bottom one is the reverse?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it'd be real easy to change that stuff later. Like Sarah was saying, when we have the Illustrator file, it's super simple to change. So to match some citywide color scheme.
Sure. That makes sense.
The main thing I think I wanted to avoid was having this just go into limbo and then we don't get the source files and stuff.
The files we get are JPEG, EPS, PDF, and web-ready PNG.
Yeah, I mean, really, probably, I mean, we could get all those things just because it's on the contract. The EPS is the most valuable since we're not finalizing anything.
Okay.
And it would be good to get an outlined version if possible and a non-outlined version, just so that if we need to, like, the outline version means you can't edit the text, whereas non-outlined, you can go in. It's like we want to change the font on Livingston.
Is there any kind of, like, I don't know how to ask this question, so just bear with me, but if we have the logo designed by a designer, then is it ethical to give it to another designer to tweak?
Yeah, I would assume by the contract that we would have rights. I mean, that we would.
Okay.
It's a work for hire, so.
Okay. We're buying the creative.
Yeah,
And I
and-
suppose there's a possibility that Megan may like attempt to maybe get the job with the city, and that could be a possibility.
Sure, yeah,
I
that'd
don't
be
know
great.
about
I mean, that'd be ideal.
Yeah.
Unless she specifically asked to retain co-rights in some way, but that's pretty odd for
Yeah, I
a
don't think
logo.
that's in here, so.
Yeah.
Okay, just
It's
curious.
different
Thanks.
than like a photograph or something.
All right, but it's okay to go in there and tweak what they've created.
Yeah.
It's owned by the entity that's.
It's a good question.
That's almost always the
I
case
wondered.
with the logo. She can use it in her portfolio or her website if she wants to.
Sure.
but-
Okay.
So Clay, what else? Did you have anything else? And did you have anything on colors?
I think with colors, the big thing for me is that I want to wait and see what the city does before, but I think for now, I personally don't see any reason to mess around with that too much at this stage, just because I feel like it might change. I like the black, the versions on the left. I think it looks pretty good. And I think she did what we asked her to do.
Sarah?
Yes, I agree with Darrell. The cotton ball tree, will get lost in translation a bit.
On A?
On A, correct. I think the cutaway looks really good and the contrast, and I think
The orange?
Yeah, the orange.
Mhm.
I don't like when it gets too complicated. I'll agree with the kind of the black and just 2 colors maximum, rather than 3 colors as are shown in the multicolored on the right. I think everybody's eyes are drawn to the option C because the leaf is placed in the trails part and not the parks part. So it provides more clarity when you're reading it. You assume it's going to go parks and trails. So I feel that reads a little bit better rather than it being in the A of the parks. I think option C also works really well because it's very contrasted, if that makes sense. So you have a lot of, so your eye is visually drawn to that spot because of the lines, the contrast, and that translates also well into reverse. So if she was going to redo a tree, I would kind of guide towards more that stylistic element.
Like the leaf?
Yeah, like the leaf. The ones above are a bit fuzzy, and then if you try to reprint that on anything, those thinner lines get kind of lost in the visual.
What about the colors? Besides black and 2 colors, you
Yeah.
like these?
I like them in isolation. I like the peach on its own. I don't know if I like the blue and the yellow together. And once again, that'll come up if what happens with the Livingston colors. I don't think we can. I don't think we can say anything. We could ask for more variations just so that we have a bigger portfolio of options that we're providing to the city or the next designer.
Sarah, can I add something on
Yeah.
color? I'm thinking way back on color design and signage, and yellow or light yellow on white is considered one of the worst. And it does get lost, so we have to be thoughtful of that.
I'm not excited about the yellow. Anything else, Sarah?
I might ask her for some different fonts.
For all of it? For Livingston or Parks and Trails?
Mostly the Parks and Trails part. Livingston it suits the signs that are there now, and I think a big motivation for that was that we didn't have to change all the signs in Livingston to accommodate this. There's actually quite a few signs around with Civic Center, Sacagawea Park, I think even the museum.
Right, yeah.
And so, I'd rather keep what's there if we can use it rather than replacing and, throwing away all the old signs.
Mhm.
So yeah, just the Parks and Trails, that's it. Thank you, Jean.
Connor?
They're way deeper thoughts than I have on this, probably. I like the leaf version. I think colors. If we can just get the file like the EPS, and we can edit that later, I think colors will resolve themselves in time. I think they're going to change probably. So those are my thoughts.
Carol?
I don't have anything to add to what I've heard. Good questions have been asked about what we need to decide on, yeah.
Okay. Rachel?
I don't have any input. This is all good. I just don't feel strongly enough about any of them.
Allison?
I think they're great.
You what?
I think they're great. She's excellent at her job. I trust her expertise.
Well, we have to give her some guidance.
This is great guidance.
Yep.
A ton of guidance. There's a ton.
The
I don't know
design
what to add.
panel over here.
I'm a physical therapist. I don't know anything about colors.
Well,
Those are
yeah,
great.
I do like the leaf one. I don't like the gold. I don't think it'll stand out. I do like your idea of two colors and black max.
One thing, sorry.
What? Go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing I like about the leaf version is that you've got, you know, the Livingston, and then you've got, it sort of balances out a little bit more than I think the tree version.
Yeah, where it's
So-
all the artwork is right
yeah,
up here,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, so I mean, if we felt more comfortable with the leaf version, I would be happy recommending going with that version over trying to figure out the tree situation.
Are you saying
Oh, I see
leave
what
where the A is?
No, I'm just saying, we could like really focus on that version instead of trying to workshop the right tree.
Variation C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A quick look though, I see the word troils,
Troils.
Trials.
because the leaf gives that full,
Yeah.
just something to,
Yeah. Good point.
although we could give porks too.
I'm such a huge fan of
Pork
troils.
troils.
Big porks, yeah.
Porks and
Porks and
troils.
troils.
Because the other option too
I'm from
is
South Carolina, that's practically how I say it.
to provide the balance, Clay, you could do the A in trails with a tree.
Yes.
And leave
Yeah.
the leaf. And
Well, I'm just saying, it just happens that with the two trees, she did it in parks. With the leaf, she did it in trails. But you could move the leaf down to the trails to provide the balance. It doesn't mean we don't still want to change the tree. You see what I mean?
yeah. I think I've confused myself. But yeah, you could do that.
I mean, I do look at it and see trails, but I can see where some people might not.
You could also flatten out the bottom of the leaf a little bit to make it more obvious. It's like an
A tree with like a trunk too, that is more of a local tree, with the trunk naturally goes down more of an A shape, you know, at the bottom of the leaf. Something just to maybe add. I need to stay out of the design for a while. I get too graphic, and then I start getting too deep into it.
It's good feedback.
I just never get to design anymore.
And all your spare time?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to laugh out loud.
She's like,
Keep laughing. Well, you did go to Puerto Rico.
That one time.
11 days.
Right, to design. We're there to design.
So we don't really have a preference. We like the leaf or a tree one, but we don't like the cotton ball one. We don't like these two trees because they're not as reflective of local Oregon like we want. We might want it in trails instead of parks, right?
Seems like there's a consensus that we like the ones with the darker letters for parks and trails as opposed to the multicolored.
Yeah. And maybe two colors plus black is enough.
for sure.
Mhm.
It has to get expensive to print after that.
And I do want one that's all black, because some things will just be,
Yep.
Yeah.
which I had asked for, but we didn't get that yet. So what about, Rachel, you particularly brought up the wayfinding, the vertical version. Is that sufficient for you to, envision as a wayfinding sign?
I think all of them are,
Well, the ones, the horizontal, we had particularly asked for a vertical one.
or I think, was it a vertical or was it more of a square?
Well,
Stacked.
we said
Stacked.
we said vertical, but she sent this one, which is what she calls the vertical version, which is more of a square.
Sure.
And there's also the one on the bottom, which is for metal. Either of those could work on a wayfinding sign. Is that what you had in mind?
Yeah,
Bill?
that's, yeah,
Okay.
yep. Those are the kinds of, I think the kinds of practical uses that it could be really helpful for.
Okay. Anything else?
What's a troll oil?
I know. So why don't I type this up, and Clay, can I send it to you?
Yeah.
And see if I've captured it,
Sure.
and if you agree, I'll send it to Megan,
Okay.
and I'll just tell her we assume we get one more shot at this after this one. We got the 3 shots, so,
That sounds good.
in case
Yes.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So, Jean, so one of the challenges with the conversation that Clay and I had is that we weren't sure if it was appropriate for us to have a direct line of communication with
Oh, yeah.
Megan, because she's a contractor with the city. So maybe with Darrell here, maybe you can help clarify that. Can we be communicating directly with Megan on this, or is that something that needs to be communicated through the administrative office?
Good question, because she is contracted, but I think if we ask to bring the recommendations, but then making sure that we're doing it correctly, I have a feeling it will be okay, because at every given moment, the city manager is the ultimate, control over analyzing contracts and working, but I don't think I don't know why, my phone, I apologize, you guys, it keeps, I can never turn it down, no matter what I do. But I think he gives, a lot of control over to different entities. It's just that he's the ultimate, say, because it reflects on him, contracted. But I think we work with him and say, okay, these are our ideas, we're going to be working with Megan with the recommendations from the committee. What are our next steps? We want to.
I'll get clarification from Mike then.
Yeah.
I'll draft what I'm going to draft and send it to you. I'll ask Mike if it's okay if we continue to communicate with Megan to get a recommendation that goes to the city commission.
Great.
Does that work?
Yeah, that'll work.
That's what I was wondering.
Is that okay?
Yeah. And just ask, is that the next step? And,
Okay.
we'll just get into
I'm
it.
not meaning to add noise.
No,
or
but that was a
add
good
extra
question.
Steps,
It is
but
a
I
good
just,
question.
that was a question we had when we were
Yeah.
visiting with Megan.
Well, because this communication thing just came out, so.
It says that we can't, so that's a good question.
Right. But this already went to the city commission that approved the expenditure. They've approved the contract. So it's a different situation, so we need to get clarification on it. So we'll do that. Okay. Anything else? Does anybody else want to see this memo to make sure I captured it?
Can I trust you?
Yeah.
If he's okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Right.
I was just thinking, if she can't find a tree that looks like an A, she could make the A look like a tree, right? I don't know, so if we need it to be more explicit, but still logo-y, it doesn't necessarily have to be a tree. Does that
But
make
it's
sense?
the only, see, it's really the main creative part aside from the trail.
I know,
So I don't want to drop
I
it
know,
to be boring,
I agree.
Let's just see what she can do. And if we have examples of trees, I mean, in the next week, maybe let us know.
Okay.
But, okay. Anything else on the logo? Okay. All right, so then,
Can I
okay,
make a quick comment
yeah,
outside of the agenda that the door was locked?
the door is locked.
The door is locked. I propped it open with a
It
newspaper.
was open when I came in, but I guess
So,
it
Timer, is that a timer on it?
must.
At 6, it might.
6,
Well,
but
I was the last one, it was open.
Yeah, it was open when I came in.
And I opened the one on the right.
Okay.
Oh,
It came open.
They were all locked.
Huh, weird.
I asked Faith yesterday who we would talk to make sure it was open. She said they will be unlocked.
Just for the
Yeah.
record, when I went out, they weren't locked.
Hmm.
They were locked.
Okay. Okay. The city board's communication and social media policies, I don't want to pretend I know these. I mean, this is if there's questions or clarifications we need, and I know we probably have some. But the two items are the social media policy that Lisa went over with us last month. We subsequently asked Connor, who graciously agreed to be our single social media contact. So,
right.
and Lisa is currently the person we'll communicate with on approving any social media posts. So that's where we're at on social media. But then this communication came out after our last meeting. Have you seen it, Darrell?
I have to see it again. I need a visual.
It went to all boards, and I know the tree board, for example, is looking at this tomorrow at their noon meeting. So are there questions you have about this communications policy? Is really the thing.
So I guess one question I have is, and maybe I misread this, but for example, are we allowed to come up with initiatives within our own committee? Or are we only in charge of things that are sent to us to like make recommendations on?
We can look at the Parks and Trails Master Plan, the Trails and Active Transportation Plan, the City Strategic Plan, the growth policy, and if we have some way we want to recommend to the City Commission that they implement a component of those, we can do that.
Okay.
We don't have to just wait for the Commission to ask us to take action.
But
Okay.
also initiate. We can initiate, the committee can initiate, but a community member can initiate an idea to you, and you can put it on an agenda, and then moves through process as well.
No, actually, Mike said if a committee member wants to initiate something, it has to go to him,
I thought you
not
said
to us.
Community member.
Community.
No, community member. It has to go to him. So, for example, the person who came to us and said he wanted to put a rock design in Sacagawea
Yeah.
Park, he has to talk to Mike first. What Mike will do is decide if it fits within the strategic plan, and then he may recommend it to the City Commission. He may not, in which case the community member still has a chance to go to the City Commission and propose it. And then if the City Commission gives direction to the city staff to do something and we're involved, we'll be asked to make a recommendation.
I should look into that.
It's the same thing with Livingston Bike Club with Mayor's Landing. They have to go to Mike, not to us. And the same thing with Green Acres Park. They are now going to Mike with requests for improvements there.
So,
That's what he told me when we met prior to our last
because
meeting.
he manages overall, but he's not making the decision whether or not it can move forward. That's not his to make. If
Well, he's making some of those, but that
Well,
doesn't stop.
That's what I'd like to know more
Yeah,
about.
it doesn't stop citizens from going to the City Commission.
That sounds burdensome
Yeah.
to bring it that route. But I think
If you
I'll
can
ask
get
about it.
clarification, that would be helpful. That's just, I mean, So for example, when Rod Lee came to us with the bowling alley, that actually should have just gone right to city staff, not to us.
I was just thinking about like new MMA in the future. Is that something that we can come up with and recommend?
Well, Lisa acknowledged maybe that should have been handled differently, but that was done, so.
Which thing?
No mo may. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I can see if I as a community member brought it to someone on this committee, and it was put on as a, just
Public comment.
public comment, this was brought to the committee, and then bringing it then to the commission, or not the commission, I'm sorry, to the city manager is a logical step of just, okay, this has been brought to the committee. We would like to look at it and study the idea. But it's really like information versus control. And then, or we'd like this presented to the feedback of the commission to see if this is something that we should study and move forward. But I don't know. I'll ask him. I feel like it's a little different than what we've done. But
Oh, it's very different.
yeah.
But that was my understanding when I met with him before our last meeting.
Which makes it confusing on how we set our priorities.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was.
Like, it's like, how do we have any priorities if we can't have priorities?
Well, we can, and that's actually on the agenda for the budget and project priorities for next year. So we can have priorities. It just means citizens can't come to us first unless, I mean, they can always come for public comment at the end of the meeting, but for us to move on something, it has to be the city manager going to the city commission, is what he told me.
Well, I'll ask.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We had a public comment, the guy who's doing the ball field of the Legion,
Right.
he came to us, he wasn't getting.
He was referred to us by Shannon.
He wasn't, he wasn't getting action and, or he wasn't getting a response, and so I thought he came to us to
But-
be able to make that recommendation to the city. So that's a bit,
When I talked to Mike about that, he said that shouldn't have come to us.
should not have, okay.
That should have gone right to the city manager.
I thought he said he'd been trying to work with them and he didn't feel like he was getting traction. Yeah.
Which comes to that burdensome
A lot-
point,
a lot
right?
to go to
That
Mike.
it seems like it's probably directing more communication traffic to an already busy channel.
And I thought like the goal of having a volunteer committee was to help relieve the burden of the city staff so that we could help work through the weeds before passing it on to them.
We've had a lot of stuff referred to us, including the ball fields or Green Acres or Rod Lee or a number of other things, but it sounds like their preference is that that goes to the city manager now. So if you could get clarification on that.
Yeah, I will.
Are there other questions on the communications policy?
A lot of questions, but I think that's the number one thing, is that we need to know what is the flow chart of information in action. And then after that, then I think we might have more questions.
I've got more questions.
Okay. Because what I'd like to do is send these to Mike.
Yeah, I think it's all around this discouraged communication.
Yes,
I think
I
that's
agree.
where we're all
Yeah.
sitting there.
Yeah.
It's basically all the communication is discouraged, except for with the commission. The one I want to particularly pull out is communication directly with individual city residents on specific issues outside of public meetings. It's confusing to me because if we are representing the public are we not allowed to talk about anything to anyone? But if we recommend a project, it's often that we're asked by the commission what the public might think about something, right?
So Darrell, just so you know, it's the last section in this where it says discourage communication, and Sarah's talking about the third bullet, which is we're not supposed to communicate directly with individual city residents on a specific issue outside of public meetings, parentheses, property owners, etc. How do we communicate with the public? Like if I see Hayes on the street and he has a question about...
Like a meeting.
Yeah.
So that's when I also wanted to ask for clarification.
Yeah, this seems, I remember seeing this pop up, but don't know. if I
Thanks,
read it
Connor.
all the way through.
Connor, is this you? Oh, that's it.
I'll grab that from you.
Thanks, Connor.
Yeah.
Can I have a copy of this?
Yes. It's also attached to the agenda, Darrell.
Okay.
So if you need another copy, it's there.
Well, I have a plan to talk to him tomorrow or Friday, depending on time.
The other thing that would have been problematic is that last bullet about requesting quotes or even donations. We couldn't have done any of the outreach we did on Reservoir Park to get a sense of whether there was public support for Reservoir Park, even whether there was any interest. Or we couldn't have met with Megan Eubank initially to find out whether she was even interested in a logo for the signs.
Yeah, it feels, I feel like it's like two different types of boards in a sense, but, you know, having done this for a while, it feels like two different entities. Like the planning board has a different role and,
Right. They have legal.
legal,
Yep.
requirements. Zoning, same thing, but a volunteer board related to trees or parks and trails or feels.
You know, I've also communicated with outside agencies like MDOT or Fish, Wildlife, and Parks on grant opportunities.
Right, how do we?
So
any of that?
that's another bullet
Well,
on here.
We'll get down to the bottom of it.
Okay.
And then I just want to clarify, there actually is a bit of a flow chart in here, but it's confusing. It says that the only role of the boards is to consider a staff plan and to make a recommendation
That's
after.
what I was referring to earlier.
Okay.
A
got
what
it.
plan?
So the board requests a policy or strategic project from the commission.
Page 2 or 3, under communication process, the big paragraph.
So in general, board communication should follow this flow. Board requests a policy or strategic project from the commission. If approved, the commission assigns item to the city staff. Then the city staff prioritizes the item and determines a workflow. Staff provides plan to the board for review. Board considers the staff plan, votes on a recommendation, and provides that to the commission.
We've never looked at a staff plan.
I don't even, yeah,
Mhm.
that's never been even, in the 3 years I've been here, that has never been something that we've done. Staff presents board recommendation to city commission, and then the commission approves the final plan. And then the staff prioritizes funds and executes the plan. So, again, to Allison's point, you have a group of volunteer board members willing to alleviate the burden of moving projects forward for the benefit of parks and trails. And we're being asked not to. Not to seek funding, not to seek partners, not to communicate with the community members or the city staff members. I'm not sure what the role of this board is.
pretty crippling. That's my perception.
It doesn't sound like they want a Parks and Trails board, based on this communication.
Can I elaborate on that? Later down in how we're supposed to communicate with commissioners. Sorry, let me get to this lines of communication. It says, so in this instance, Darrell is our assigned commissioner. She can act as liaison, but there's no formal guidance, which fair, I guess. And then we can only communicate through the city staff administrator. We can't communicate directly with the city commission on items that we vote for. So it says the method to get these final written communications formally to the commission is through the city manager's administrative assistant, which so we're not supposed to speak with the commission. And so we can't send you recommendations anymore, or if we're advisory to the commission, we have to go through city staff. That's just a bit confusing.
So Darrell, maybe you could just look at it and
Yeah,
you'll understand based on what we've been doing for the last few years.
yeah. Like I said, I feel like it's addressing a couple.
I get that they don't
issues
want
versus one.
us directing staff on what to do, but that's different than
Yeah.
what some of these things,
I absolutely sympathize with the need to clean up who we communicate with and when and how and why, like in terms of who on staff and whatnot, and maybe having one or two points of contact. But this doesn't feel like a collaborative or proactive sort of arrangement for the community as a whole, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to get in trouble. And like, what is the consequence if we accidentally mess up?
especially talking to residents, individual city residents on an issue.
You couldn't talk about anybody,
It's just such a small
anything.
town.
I don't know that this community is big enough that that's not
Yeah,
like
that's
inevitable.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
Stay in your hole.
Yeah.
I mean, when you work in the community and volunteer in the community and live in the community, this is a small community, and everyone's going to talk to you.
It's our strength.
Yeah.
We have operated
Historically, yeah.
that if we have a quorum, it has to be noticed in a public meeting. But if it's not a quorum, there's no reason why one or two people can't have a conversation about things.
Yeah.
This is switching that around so that everything has to be publicly noticed, so one or two of us can have a conversation, or even with one of us with an individual. So we're just trying to get clarification on that too.
Does the city or commission have these same requirements?
Well, they're
Does
elected.
the what? Sorry, I'm writing an email to
Oh, no, it's all right.
question.
I'm just wondering, does this come from because the commission or the city staff would also have similar requirements of how they communicate, or is this specific to boards?
Yeah, we have legal requirements. We can't have, forums. We can't.
But you can talk to
Decisions.
citizens because
Yeah,
when you're
yeah.
elected, so
Well, we
you're in a
can't-
different
When you're
position.
interacting with certain entities, we have some pretty strict requirements that we follow. We don't, we can't make decisions I can't say, well, I'm supporting this, or you should be against this to another commissioner.
Right.
Until you've heard the full conversation
Mm-hmm.
or the full presentation, depending on, because then you're not giving the public the right to be heard.
Sure.
Yeah, but there's different things. This feels, like I said, to me it feels like it's directed to two different entities. Just from the legal realm to the advisory realm. Montana Code realm too. So, yeah.
So you're sending an email, but I think, do you want me to try to get clarification from Mike separately, or do you want to just let Darrell do it?
I think you should communicate with them, and so should she. That's my opinion. And I think
And I have to send him an email anyways.
if
Okay.
he wants us to communicate with him, let's do it.
Okay. I'll send a letter just asking some general questions.
That'd be good.
That's a good start.
Hayes, did you want to say anything on this? Okay. If we're done with this, we'll move on. Okay. Summit Street abandonment. This was just an opportunity to say what the commission did, which was they didn't take an action. Last night, they decided to defer it. The first motion was to table. They changed it to just defer it to the next meeting. And what Mike said at the meeting, and Darrell can clarify any of this, was that they were going to wait to see a draft from the Trails and Active Transportation Plan, and that there was something else to do with another landowner. I'm not sure what that means. So, but it'll be up at the first October meeting, which is October 5th. So there was no public comment yesterday.
Good to know. Thanks.
Darrell, do you know anything more?
No, we're just looking at some other options and then relating, like more communications, I should say, with the adjacent landowner. There's two.
You mean the landowner to the north?
Yes. And then, I don't know if how that came to the city at this time. We weren't presented that, or that information. But then the other part is we do know the active transportation draft is now available for that area, and we want that to help inform.
What if the active transportation plan isn't finalized before October 5th?
It probably won't be, but it does relate to it, so we can look at it in its draft form. It's not official, but it can help inform us in our decision. But remember when it went through initially, so it was a 4-1. One commissioner was gone, and it was 3-1.
3-1.
I was against. I was the only one.
Thank you. Anything else on Summit Street? Okay. Trails and AT plan, Sarah just put in there. We have a steering committee meeting tomorrow on this.
Yeah, they've done a priorities matrix and initial projects on the plan, so that's kind of interesting. But that's it.
Any questions?
Oh, I guess this is a process. Is the county going to weigh in? Since a lot of our trails connect with the county and the public, do we have an idea of what that process will be to get public input or
From the county?
Or the county's input?
We could ask tomorrow.
Okay.
Social and other media, the thing coming up will be the reservoir next month and the logo design. We can do social media on reservoir. I don't know about logo. Is there anything else coming up that you might want to do?
So, the thing with social media is that it sometimes is most effective when it's like slightly
Fun.
and like spur of the moment and when you feel inspired, right? which is evidently not allowed anymore. I'm not opposed to scheduling.
Well, we could
out
do
posts.
educational.
I think that scheduling posts is fine.
Mhm.
I think that can benefit organizations in a lot of ways and benefit entities in a lot of ways, but it requires quite a bit of like pre-planning or some pre-planning. Given that our social media czar doesn't have a social media account.
He did start one.
He just
He
started.
did? What's his name?
Oh.
Well, I think
Connor?
it's Connor.
Oh, he used his real name?
Yeah,
I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I think he has to.
Yeah.
In order to post, he has to. He had one, but he's trying to keep it
Oh,
sort of
I
quiet.
didn't- okay.
It's not like Parks and Trails Avatar.
I mean, some people use,
Mr.
you
Parks
know,
and Trails.
Mr. Parks and Trails.
different names.
So, I mean, if you have an idea for a fun one,
Okay, I'll see what I can come up with. Picture of
because I
Nessie
agree.
Galloping.
on a trail.
On a trail, yeah.
It would be nice. It would be nice. I
Puppies?
hear what you're saying is that we didn't have to pass every social media post to Lisa. Like if we just had like a photo of a Parks and Trails and we're like, yay, look how awesome this is. Or
We can
Look
do
at this trail.
educational
And
one.
again-
We can.
I mean, I'm tempted to just send her one a day and see what happens. Like, if this is how they want this to work,
do they have the bandwidth?
do they have the bandwidth to really manage a social media account that is like really effectively?
I will tell you, she asked for 3 days advance.
Great. So we could start scheduling, or we could start sending her stuff, and then in 3 days maybe it'll get there.
And who
And
is,
then-
who?
Lisa Lowy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kara's son.
Yeah.
So if we want something posted, we just have to give her time because of her schedule to make sure she can look at it.
And to clarify, so we send her like the image or the video or whatever, and then we send her the like
And a
suggested
text.
language.
Yep.
And then she'll do
Thumbs
whatever.
up, thumbs down.
And she wants that through email format.
That's how I did it with her.
So she's posting for us.
No.
Oh.
She says yes or no. And then like this last time on
Oh.
Reservoir, I sent it to Connor and he posted it.
Yeah.
I think you can draft a post
And then
and
send
she's
it.
admin.
And then do a screenshot
Yeah.
maybe.
And she could look
I
it
add.
up.
Did I add her? I added Connor for sure.
You have to add her.
I think I added her. I did that all one night. Let me double check.
Okay.
I
Sorry,
deleted
I'm.
Facebook off my phone.
So I agree with you. I think just,
It feels like we're being deterred from doing it at all.
Yep.
anything else on social media? I
Do
wish
we
I
have
had
an
an
Instagram
answer.
account?
Is Instagram in the policy?
Well,
Well, it's all social media. So.
Then you can just link it.
TikTok?
So this is draft on the top of it, the copy that I have in the file.
Because the unions, when she gave it to us, had not had a chance to look at it, but she didn't expect it to change.
So does it need to, so is it in effect? Or
I don't know.
is
I
it
can ask Mike.
draft?
Or I'll ask Lisa. But this, I think you can assume this is it, but she said it had to go to the unions at the time. That was a month ago.
But it hasn't been voted on or approved by the commission,
I don't know.
adopted as a policy.
Darrell, have you adopted this social media policy?
No.
Okay.
Policies are different than.
The city can adopt those without
Yeah,
going to the
we can have
commission.
policies within the city
Proce-
without,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I just sent an email though asking for clarification.
Okay.
But I want it on an agenda. I'm gonna just go there. I already put it,
The communications policy?
yeah. I
Okay,
wanna
we're
just-
talking about the social media policy too.
Well, that also relates, I think, we can add.
Yeah. This is the social media which Lisa shared with us last month. And she said it was final except that it had not been approved by the unions. So I just don't know if it's been finalized. I haven't asked her. I was gone for the month mostly. Anything else on social and other media? You want to come up with a couple and see if we can run those by Lisa? Fun ones?
I can come up with a couple within the month.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Okay. It's
If you want
frustrating.
something done, ask someone who's busy.
Yeah. Okay, committee appointment, so this is Rachel's term is up at the end of this year. Do you have any more you want to say on that?
I think you're asking me to tell everyone that I'm not going to renew my seat.
If you've made that decision.
That's the decision. That's my final answer.
When I asked Faith about timing on this, she said they would open this to applicants from October 1st to the 30th, which they would have to do regardless of whether Rachel was applying or not. So there'll be an opening for this position. It'll run October 1st, October 30th. We need, again, a couple of people who will interview the candidates. And you could do that?
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to join Clay with that? Anybody else?
I'll help.
Okay, Carol and Clay. So the idea would be you'd interview and then make a recommendation to the committee, and the committee will then vote on that and send it to the commission. And Rachel, or who did it the last time?
Connor and
Okay, do you have the questions you asked or something you can send Clay?
Yes.
Okay.
Feel free to let us know.
And I would encourage you to recruit people. Is there anyone else planning on leaving the committee before the end of the year? Okay. Is that what we get on the communications policy?
Communicate with anyone.
Yeah.
And if I know that there are some open seats on boards, right?
Conservation Board is advertising, and one other next.
Planning board just did a recommendation,
Oh, okay.
so they just went through a process.
They just advertised 2 different board positions, and then legals. One was Conservation Board. I don't know what the other was.
And then the planning board had the 2 non-freeholder
Oh.
required.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I'd be happy to stay on. I don't know if that's the thing, like, if you don't find someone, do you need someone to fill the spot?
Yep.
Is that helpful?
You'd have to apply
It's done. Good, great.
Oh, damn it.
because all our terms end December 31st of a particular year.
Okay.
Next year, 3 of us are up. Connor, me, and Carol.
No, Allison.
I was gonna say, what?
It's Allison. And I think me too.
Connor came on after me.
Oh, by the way.
Oh,
I was
that's
actually
right.
looking
Connor
at
and I
that
are the next year.
online.
That's
I think
right.
the dates are off online.
Yeah, they are.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. I was looking.
No, it's Allison, Carol, and who's the other?
Might be Connor. I mean, he came on like,
No, Connor and I are at the same time.
It might be me.
it might be Sarah then.
Yes.
Sarah came on right after.
It
I
is.
think someone stepped down and I took their
Yeah,
spot.
so it's Sarah, Allison, and Carol are next year, December 31st, 2022.
You came in like midterm,
Yeah.
yeah. But you still have, are you carrying out that term then? How does that work? Because everybody has a December.
I'm in December 2022.
They've sort of changed how they do that from what we initially were doing.
Yeah.
And
just-
Faith, when I've asked her about those dates, corrected it and said, no, this is how we do it. You're filling the term. So you don't, it used to be you came on and you got up to 4 years. You know, that year you joined plus 3 more or whatever. But now it's you're filling a term
Got it. Okay.
is the interpretation. The other thing is November and December meetings. We don't have to make a decision now, but again, those are right before Thanksgiving and Christmas. We won't be meeting then. So we'll have to decide if there's going to be another time in November or December to meet. And that'll depend on our workload, right? So we do have to meet in October. The budget and project priorities for next year, this is something Mike indicated is where we can have some influence, at least to if we want to make requests of city to pursue certain projects to implement Trails and Active Transportation or Parks and Trails Master Plan or something that's in the city's strategic plan, they need that starting in January. The sooner we get that to them, the better off we are in pushing those priorities. And that includes for the budget, for maintenance, for new projects, whatever. So I'm raising it now because this will definitely be something we want to talk about either if we have a November or December meeting or January. If we want to push any priorities, this is the opportunity. Darrell, any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm off, so someone else will be taking my position. But as far as, are you asking, sorry, I was yawning for a second.
Oh, just anything on the process that you would recommend we pay attention to for budget and project priorities.
Well, I mean, it always starts in January, right? Like towards the end of January, February, and I would just be prepared with our priorities list like we have. I think that was a big plus for the committee to start, bringing it early, because some of that work has been done, and just being prepared. It should be sort of an ongoing conversation, throughout the year, and updating it every 3 months, making sure that we're still in the right direction. I think then the work isn't so daunting to just have the priorities as the only thing, but just that's part of the ongoing. I would say that for the future, but.
So I think every year they have, I don't know if it's 5,000 or 10,000 for implementing the Parks and Trails Master Plan. We might be able to try to suggest something for that, to influence that. So that's what that is. Any other public comments? Hayes, anything else?
Question was one of on the Summit
Yep.
Street, was that abandonment?
No, the city commission did not make a decision last night.
Okay.
They deferred it to the October 5th meeting
Did you say there were no public comments that were made?
because they deferred it.
Because several of us made comments last Parks and Trails community. Were those translated as public comments?
We indicated in our letter to the commission that there were like 6 or 7 people who made comments and characterized what those comments were.
So we don't need to make them if we couldn't.
Well, it doesn't hurt to make them, again, to the city commission, always. And you could do that any time now till they make a decision on it, which they're hoping to do on the 5th.
And on the social media, I'd ask you guys to think about where's the line of what you allow and what you don't allow. In other words, can I send you things that are required to be posted? If it relates to the Parks and Trails in Livingston, I sit on boards that we've had interest at times with. So where does that line go? That's what I'd ask you to think about in terms of if you're being your ability to post on Parks and Trails is being infringed on, then where's the line of what you can post and what it is you can't post?
Did you see this social media policy?
No, I did, but it wasn't because I'm not looking.
Okay, so I think generally what we're being told is that we cannot serve as advocates for issues or activities that other groups are doing.
Right.
So we could do information and educational related to the city's activities,
Right.
but not promote other groups' activities.
Right. And that was being done on the page. But certain groups were being advocated for on the page.
So we're just doing information and educational.
But my comment is you were, the group was feeling on what you can and what you can't post. And so send up several things to see, about when you can post or try to not necessarily bombard, but send up enough to see if they want things to go through, and we'll hit them with all these things. So my comment is, then as me as a community member, do I have the right to send you as the board information and expect that sent up to the powers that be as well? So that's my question, that's my comment, is where do you draw the line? Do I have to be on the committee in order to have my information sent up, or can I send that to you and expect it to be sent up? And that's, I think, is the largest gray area that you're dealing with about what you can post, when you can post it, and who you're representing when you do that.
Yeah, I'd say if Lisa's deciding, we can send everything up.
I think that's a great question.
Yeah, I think
that's
everything can go up, because it's not our decision.
everything,
Yeah,
send everything.
why not?
As long as it's
Informational,
related to the city,
educational,
our
non-biased.
operations is parks and trails.
Yeah, it just can't be biased.
Mhm.
And there's an avoidance to have Facebook opinions as posts or as information that comes to decision makers.
Totally.
Because if we base, huge decisions that impact our community on Facebook, that's bad precedence. So, I mean, if you consistently go with with information, whether people like that information or not isn't the issue, because some won't like it. But Facebook is not the impetus for how we make decisions. Yeah. Or the forum, because as soon as that happens, then this is really Livingston is not where we should get our facts.
Hayes' point is if he sends us a comment that he would like posted on social media, our job is to send it to Lisa Lowry and she will approve it or not. And that's
But
the
if
process.
the committee, no matter who it is, if the committee's just posting information, that's opinion. The committee
Right,
is
but if Hayes had like a education on like native species in Livingston or a event that he wanted to share that was related to Parks and Trails Committee, that's information and education related to the city, related to Parks and Trails that we can
And then
share.
does it tie into the no matter who it is, that's what I'm saying, does it tie into the goals? And if yes, then the committee can say, or the chair, that's the other thing, is the chair has some of that power of like, okay, does that fulfill the goals and requirements of the committee? Yes, this does. But when it's about opinions, and that's what I thought we were talking about too, is just opinions versus like information.
I'm not asking to have an opinion put on that. I'm just trying to ask where the line would be drawn. What if I have a public awareness in native species, but I have funding from sources? Do I have to disclose those? That's what I'm throwing out. I'm not saying anything other than where do you draw the line? Can I advertise an event that if somebody checks into it even in the slightest, they can see that I've got funding from certain organizations that maybe they do have an agenda. And that happens. And that's happened on it. So that's what I'd ask you to think about. And I don't think we should be getting our facts from this is really Livingston either. But at the same point, I'd ask, and I've made this comment before, and I don't know if you weren't here, but at the same point, the survey, you can call it a questionnaire and the survey the same thing. And what you're doing is you try to collect data to make interpretations. And how that data is collected, the questions that are asked, influence the outcomes of those answers. Take, for example, the survey that they submitted. I forget the exact listing of the question, but it was rank the following from first to the last of the report. And it had everything from dog park down to native or open vegetation, things like that. I forget everything that was on there. My point of that being is that I could have changed the outcome of that question by wording it to say, what would you like across the street from your house? that will, without a doubt, change the order of that. So my point is on these surveys and these comments is that I understand you have to collect information somehow, but you should realize that survey data, questionnaire data, is not only worthless sometimes, it's actually worse than that. It's actually very misleading. And it gives people the wrong impression of what is actually out there. As we see, we've got surveys that are set up. Some say, some are completely filled out. Some just have one or two of the things filled out. How do you interpret those so that they can make a recommendation to you on what the community wants? So that's what I've been trying to point out this entire time. And then how many times do we get to go back to the farmer's market? Maybe you should come to Reservoir Park again. You're sampling in places that are inherently biasing the results that you're getting. Did anybody here collect surveys personally? Did they send them to their friends? That's a question worth asking. That's a question worth knowing the answer to. So,
Well, I definitely
as we
have a-
interpret
yeah.
these, that's all I'm saying, as we interpret these, we have to understand exactly how the data was collected, where it was collected, and the intentions of its collection.
We have to, I'm not going to argue that point, but I do think that it's a tough place because you have to have a start and an end point. And there's always going to be people that don't like the start or the end, or anything in between. See, but you gotta, in the public process, you have to give the opportunity. You may not like the opportunity given, someone else might love it, and in a volunteer board, it's just, you got to have a starting point. And I get frustration in it, and I get statistics, and I've taken statistics and related to advertising, etc. And yeah, it's a tough one, but you do have to have a starting point. And if it would have been a different starting point, you might have liked it more or disliked it more, and it's just the reality of it. And I get it. I've been doing this a long time now, as a commissioner, and it's just a really hard thing to create that middle ground that everyone will agree on, no matter what. So I get where you're coming from.
Thanks, Faith. Community comments? No? Okay, so I guess I will take a motion to adjourn. We'll meet in October and then decide if we need to meet November, December. On that.
Motion.
Does that work?
Yeah. Oh, can I just have one comment? If we're
Sure.
doing our budget and priorities, and we're only going to do those at the end of January. That's when our next meeting is, and we don't have November and December.
We could.
Yeah, I'm just for when we make that decision, that if we're only having one more meeting, otherwise November and December are pretty critical to be able to finalize, because we'll be finalizing at the end of January. And so what information do we need to collect? Because if we can only speak to Michael to get quotes from Shannon or budgetary items, what ideas might cost and priorities might cost, it's just going to take a little bit more time.
And we might not get that detailed. We might just say we want this done that the master plan recommends, or the trails plan. So we may need to meet. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Do you want to do a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And it is 7:54. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And then we might, just another note, it doesn't matter if it's minutes, just if, moving a meeting because November and December, so it's not bad.